we need to use our critical thinking skills by any of these AI tools that we're actually implementing and push on the people that have developed them to say, what did you use in the background? And if they're not willing to give you a straight answer, I don't know if I want to use them, because I think it just kind of reeks to me. Be transparent. Be transparent.
Hey everyone, welcome to Beyond the Build, the podcast where innovation meets collaboration in the world of construction. We bring together thought leaders and industry experts to explore the cutting-edge ideas transforming construction equipment, supply chains, building materials, and workforce productivity.
This podcast is proudly brought to you by Faro, the revolutionary last-mile logistics platform, redefining how high-value, time-sensitive construction deliveries get done. Need it fast? Need it right? Faro it.
Hey everyone, today we are joined by Tyler Campbell, a builder, technologist, and storyteller who's reshaping how the construction industry adopts tech and innovation. As CEO of FieldProof, Tyler helps construction companies successfully navigate technology, optimization, and innovation, bridging that gap between tech and real-world construction practices. Today we're going to be diving into Tyler's journey from job site to leadership, discuss his insights on how technology is transforming the field and how leadership and innovation are helping the industry move forward with confidence. Tyler, welcome to Beyond the Build.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
I've followed you for a while and have kind of watched what you've been doing, what you're trying to build, and it aligns a lot with what we like about what we're trying to do in business. But one of the things that stuck out for me about you is your candidness and kind of lack of filter when it comes to your opinions on certain tech in the industry. Like there's some stuff where you're just like that this is absolutely pointless. Why do people pay for this bit of tech in construction? And that's kind of the whole philosophy of this company that you've built as well, is the idea of, okay, you're using this tech. I'm sure one of the first things you do is say like, don't need that, get rid of that, that's stupid. And then you try and make things talk to each other. So all that to say, I like that approach, and I'm hoping to get some of that candid response as well.
Oh, that won't be a problem. I inherited it from my father, so trust me, you'll get some. I got to that point in my career where I just stopped giving a crap. And I was like, I'm just going to say the thing that I feel everybody else is kind of thinking. And
yeah,
it ruffles feathers occasionally too.
It must be very freeing. I am not at that point. I'm still at a point where it's like I care a little bit about what people think, and
come to the dark
eventually
side,
I'm sure it'll just work itself out. It'll shake out eventually.
Well, hey, listen, God knows my heart. All right, He knows my heart. He knows there's something good there. So like it's not to crap on everybody, but it is certainly to just call certain things out that I feel that aren't just.
Well, like I think you mentioned, you hit a really hard point where it's your why. You understand your purpose and you understand what your firm foundation is, which is rooted in Christ. I share the same sentiment. And so when we talk about at Faro, like our core values, they're centered around servant leadership, humility, and being unapologetic. And so when you talk about like the unfiltered or in my opinions, it's not me pressing on my views to you, but it's being unapologetic, but saying I'm rooted in my convictions. And if I'm doing it in a servant, humble way, then we shouldn't really have too many issues, right? Because I'm not trying to press upon you my belief system. I'm just saying, how can I help you? I don't have all the answers, but I'm not buying that. So we can still continue to evolve.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there has to be some people out there that are challenging the narratives that are being marketed. And I don't see many people doing that. And so after being in the podcasting game for a little while, you start to see the common threads, the more tech people that you talk to. And then you start to see the common threads along with the marketing, which is what I did also for a moment. And once you see how the sausage gets made, you start getting a little irritated, especially considering that like my actual background is in construction. Like I started out when I was 19, came into the family business. I did 3D modeling, detailing structural steel for a decade. And so I've got that base of understanding, because before I even opened my mouth, I was detailing. And so this whole journey for me has just been about coming back and just trying to help the kid that started up in dad's office back in the day, right? Like, how can I make life easier for that person that's coming into our industry? But uh, I mean, it's really my why is my why is one, I mean, be a servant of Christ, but beyond that, it's make cool stuff, and try to make the industry a better place. And man, I think there's so much tech out there that's getting talked about right now, but so little substance behind that technology. And so I think we can get into that a little bit here with the AI rant that I could definitely go on today. But I don't know. It's become a passion for me to, just to be that voice of reason and almost be a bit of a skeptic. And it's not because I don't like tech. I do like tech. I think it is going to save a lot of people time. And we need to leverage it, but man, it's not the be all end all answer for everything. And most of it's just marketing bull. So
Yeah. I mean,
it's just kind of irritating.
the past has proved that technology, the right technologies have improved things. I mean, no one can deny that the Industrial Revolution had a massive impact, and that is a new technology where we went from carving everything with adzes and axes and saws by hand to getting steam engines, and then coal and whatever the power used to generate, and that changed the industry from being able to make things out of wood versus brick versus then steel. And then, you had things like railways that moved logistics in a way that we'd never seen before, where you're not having to huff things on, a couple of oxen, old, kind of like Oregon Trail style. So there's no doubt that, eventually the technology wills out. However, in those days too, I'm sure there were people slinging snake oil, with new ideas that weren't turned out to not be good ideas. So I know that time will kind of weed out the good stuff, but we are in the midst of this kind of sensory overload of there's just so much, and we don't know exactly which ones are going to be the ones that are going to be the game changers yet.
I keep coming back to this thought too. And it's less about the snake oil, right? It's more about how things are marketed. Uh, Robotics, for instance. Um, we if a new bricklaying robot comes out, which it has, I won't call the name out because I can't think of it, but there is a new bricklaying robot. People will market that as like this groundbreaking thing that has never been done before. It's incredible. It's like all of these things. Did you know back in the day, back in the 50s, that there was a bricklaying robot that got made and was deployed? That it's again, it's like we sit and we say, this is groundbreaking, but is it really? Is it really? Somebody else has already done this before. So let's be real about it, right? And that's where I kind of get a little bit disappointed, where it's, and I'll call out HoloLens a bit for this, right? It's like HoloLens was marketed as this thing where you put it on your head and you could look around and you had all this crap floating around you, right? Really cool. So we bought one. It was like $3,500. I put it on and I got these two little wafers that I'm looking through. And I'm like, what the crap is this? This isn't what I was promised. Like, what are you talking about?
This looks like nothing like the commercials.
Nothing like the commercials, It's like you order a car on the internet and then you end up with a Matchbox and you're like, I paid 50 grand for this, That's unfortunate. But I don't know, guys. Like it just feels like there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on right now. And that, I think that's where a lot of my rants have come from, is just the marketing versus reality front of it. And really just trying to get down to the no bones about it. Like, here's the reality of the situation. It doesn't need to. Okay, I'm fine with it being a reboot of an idea. Whatever, fine. But just be transparent. Just be transparent about it. Say, yes, this was made, we advanced it, here we are today, right? It's not this new groundbreaking idea that the CEO had. They might have had the idea, but at the end of the day, like, many times there are people that have already gone before you and tried to execute this. So let's give homage where it's due.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rare that marketing under promises. Marketing is almost by design an over promiser where it tries to hype you up, and then the bar is always too high.
Yeah, they're always going to try to do something to stimulate your, emotional feeling to say, oh, I need that, or the FOMO, or whatever it is. But it reminds me, I was reading something, I think Jim Rohn was the author, but it was talking about like discipline and consistency. And like he said something to the effect of, men will fight for truth. But how many of those same men will like research what truth really is before they're going out to fight for it?
Yeah, which truth, man?
It's or like, just to say, yeah, let's go do this. But it's like, well, why are you doing it? Like, we're all ready to gun ho to be like, let's take on, the enemy and let's go grab it. And I'm like, have you read anything about why you're fighting for it? Right. So with regards to like the marketing, the piece, like Bricklayer, great. Have you read anything about why, and then all of a sudden you take the inverted pyramid approach where you're going, okay, so we're going to layer robotics in there and everybody's for it. But now what does everybody else do with their talents? Right. We talked about it in a previous podcast where the AI boom and, the technology is scaling, right? The internet was the best and worst thing that could ever happen to society. Right. I mean, to the point now we're getting boxes showing up at our house. We don't even remember what we ordered.
I'm
But-
guilty. I'm totally guilty. Of
Totally
that,
guilty.
That happened to my wife yesterday. I'm like,
I'm
what did
not
you do?
guilty. I just live in a household where I have other people like wife. Now they're just like, what did we order? Why do I have 7 more? I could literally build another house out of the amount of cardboard that I probably break down every 30 days. I'm like,
Tangent
dude.
here. How in the world can we make a better system for that? That's
Fuck.
one that I have been processing.
You
is
know what
like,
you do? You take
all these
you take their
boxes.
you take their Amazon account and you limit it. Kind of like credits. You only get 6 credits a day because even when I'm working at home, I will literally see 2 Amazon vehicles within 4 minutes of each other, then a UPS, then a FedEx, then another FedEx, and then another Amazon delivery. And I'm like, the doors, like, the bell's going off, the dogs are going nuts, and I'm like, I might as well just turn my my mute button on because of the system. But like we're going back to the same thing where it's like you have all this technology advancing, which is great. It moves society. But at the same time, when do we get to a point where it's like we're building a data center, we have all this technology, but who's actually putting the data center together? Like we still need people. And then we need to understand why those people are coming to work. What are they doing rather than sitting in an ivory tower and say, well, it'd be really good is if they did this, this, and this. And I'm like, have you ever picked up a wrench? Have you ever delivered anything? Do you know what it's like to basically make a U-turn in downtown LA in a 53-foot tractor trailer? Like, that's why your addresses are so important because you can't do that at 7 a.m. If you do it, that's another hour delay. So we're not asking the people that are actually doing the work, like, hey, what would make your life better? And then taking that information and saying, oh, well, what if we did this rather than from a technology point? And I'm not a tech guy. I'm a construction guy. I was in the equipment industry for 2 decades. So a lot of projects and stuff. But it's like we build the product and we're like, here, use this. And I'm like, dude, it's a great product, but I'm not going to use 80% of it. I want this button and I want this button. And that's it.
Yeah. That's more what I've come back to is like when I started FieldProof up, like the whole idea was to help tech companies. And there's been a story arc here where it's like, all right, I started helping tech companies. Great. But then I stepped back again and I was like, hold up a second. What am I actually contributing? Am I contributing to the noise in the market or am I actually trying to solve problems? And so what really kind of inspired me was, I started going down this road of, getting into UX and in product management and all of these different elements. And this has been a years long journey for me, at least from a user experience angle. I've just always been a nerd that way. I'm just gathering skills as I go along, right? And I started looking at that. I'm like, man, it'd be really cool if there was like an orchestrator of the technology within a company, right? And like a lot of companies don't have that. They have tech, and it's all over the place. We have 50 different tabs open. Something's making music. I don't know, where's the music coming from, right? That's kind of how construction companies operate. And that's because we're busy. We don't have time to go back and fix every bell and whistle. So for me, instead of bringing more products to market, I started to come back to this place of how can I make the products that we already have harmonize with each other? How can we make them work together? And be agnostic. Say, it's not going to have to be this platform, that platform. That's not my answer. My answer is not, well, we can solve your problem if we just use this. Buy it. And by the way, I'm going to collect a referral fee on the back end. That's not how I want to structure this. What I want to do is I want to walk in. I want to say, what do you have? Jim Bob over here really likes using spreadsheets. Is it working? Okay. Maybe that's not the first battle we fight. Maybe there's something else that we need to go look at first. And so let's go start fixing some other things. And then maybe we'll get to that spreadsheet eventually when it makes sense, when the ROI is there. And then we will make sure that we are giving Jim Bob a why for that. But back to the UX side, we're talking to Jim Bob, right? We're sitting down and we're having those long conversations of, what do you need? Why do you need it? When do you need it? Let's get into that. And let that fuel the technology decisions. And that's that area that if you're running a construction company, if you're a leader in a construction company, you don't often have the time for that. You're busy running the dang business, man. You don't always have time to sit down with all of your employees and dig into the weeds for an hour and say, why do you need it? Where do you need it? You don't have that time. And so that's where FieldProof has kind of come to, is how can we be a resource to construction companies across the board that just need help unifying and streamlining. And my own kind of thinking is less is more. So what can we eliminate? How can we eliminate tools from our stack? And then add back with a lot of strategy. We only add things when it makes a ton of sense. But let's
So are
reduce,
you guys building
reduce.
tech? Do you guys build
No.
tech, or do you refine the tech that's already out there?
We're refining the processes and technology that you use. So basically, we're coming in, seeing what's working, what you already have, making that hum, making that work really well. And let's unify all that stuff, and we do a full diagnostic and understand what's happening. If we come to a point where we do need to buy something, there's a gap here, and it's clear that we're going to get return on an investment if we patch this. So we might go out and get something off of the shelf, or like SaaS solution, or if that doesn't exist, build something custom. And so for that, I've got a lot of relationships in the tech side, but then I've also got relationships on the development side too. But the kicker in all of this is that a lot of consultancies or advisors in this kind of role, and I'm trying to avoid this consultancy thing. I don't like that term. I want a partner. I don't want somebody who's just going to tell me how to fix it and then run away and hand me a project like a PowerPoint. So, and a bill. Yeah, right. I want somebody that's going to stay in there and help me solve the freaking problem, right? So we will either build it or buy it, depending on the needs. But at the end of the day, I'm not taking a cut from anybody that I refer. So if I say, hey, I feel we need to buy or build something custom, I am not going to take a referral fee from that developer. And that's anti-bias. I don't want bias playing into the recommendations that I'm giving. Because at the end of the day, would an employee in your company act like that? No. They would make the decision that was right for the company. And so to me, those are the things that I'm trying to instill early on in this process, so that it's not, we're coming in and we're doing what's best by the people within that company. And every company's different. Everybody's got different personalities, and we got to take everybody for what they are. And the good thing is too, is that, we'll start doing this more and more and more, aggregate more of an idea of what the areas of
You're
confusion
collecting
are.
your own data, and you kind of get better. You're just
Exactly.
going to get
And
naturally
so,
better.
and then we can say, hey, listen, we've given referrals over to this project management company over here, or project management tool, they're not performing. So guess what? We're going to go use somebody over here, give them a try, And so we can also say, how much did they pay for this? How much are you paying for this? So we can aggregate all of that and really even out that playing field and cut through the bull by being integrated within the company, within the contractor, and helping them out. So in a way, I feel like I'm going to become the most feared person in construction technology. That's my goal.
Well, yeah, you're like the composer. You're like the Hans Zimmer because I'm going to your musical
No,
background.
I think I maybe I think he's more going to be the assassin. He's going to be in there and
The Scottish assassin.
Yeah. He could be, but again, that's what you're doing. You're telling me somebody that basically plays strings and telling that have percussion.
Okay, so a composer with a machete. We'll compromise.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. That's how I'm directing.
Here's the thing, Tyler. So I'm going to ask you this question because, I didn't start in tech. I was like you, right? I was in the industry. I'm kind of a dinosaur. My team will make fun of me at sometimes. Like, I didn't know tech. I worked for a tech company for a hot minute, so I understand SaaS and license and all of the terminology. But every time I sat down, I was like, and I was the director of global sales with our clients, and these are rental companies. These are people that are just like, yeah, you give us a AS400 system or whatever, it's our Atari, and we know how to use it. And I'm like, don't give me a bunch of buttons. I mean, it was pretty sad, but even when I went to work for the ERP company, I was on the old system, and when they showed me a web page, and I'm like, yeah, this is too hard because I had muscle memory, right? And I lived in a 4-screen monitor, and I knew where my function keys were, and it was just fast rather than clicking down. So really what the question is going to be is the adoption of the industry, which is very, very slow to adopt, right? We are what we are. And now all of a sudden you get a superintendent or Jim Bob that says, hey, I'm super comfortable of what I'm doing. I don't need 15 different buttons on all this new stuff. I just want to do this. Right? How do you get something where you look at a tech stack and you're saying, this is the feedback that I got from your team on what they say they want to accomplish. And here's 5 different things that could really add value to your organization. But when you input those 5 things, and Jim Bob is still only using 2% of the 5% that you give him, you're like, dude, WTF? Like, what do we do there when they're not ready? They know what they want, but they're not ready to do it. How do you partner through that challenge?
I think, again, it's just going back again and again and again and understanding. So, I mean, if we're poking at that superintendent, okay, maybe we go to them once we have that conversation and we feel like we've got a good idea of what they need. So instead of just making that decision on high and forcing it down their throat, there needs to be ownership of that decision by that superintendent, right? And so bringing a solution and saying, hey, what do you feel here is the best option for you? So that way they feel like they've got skin in the game. I think that's an area that we often kind of get flipped. And I see this happen a good bit in construction companies where it's leadership makes a decision and it's pushed through. If we're looking at like Jocko Willink, right? And he talks about extreme ownership, right? We kind of want them to have the plan or create the plan. We want to tell them like, here are the parameters, but we want them to kind of give us that insight because then they own it. Then they feel it. It's their decision. It's their mission to make it a success. And so that's part of it that needs to be kind of implemented. Beyond that too, I think there are a couple other areas that I want to touch on. One is there a carrot dangling there where they have an incentive to execute, right?
Incentive to try something new, to get out of their comfort zone. Yeah.
Exactly. So maybe that's not monetary. Maybe it's understanding what their job is, what might make their job easier, what the pain is. And if we can eliminate the pain, that's a good carrot that we can dangle in front of them and say, listen, if you do this, guess what? Good things happen, right? And we can reinforce. Next side of that is going to be if let's say Jim Bob out in the field is used to using a spreadsheet for everything. Let's say they're awesome at Excel. They run all the projects on Excel. I think a lot of technology companies will come in and just kind of be like, Excel. I can't believe you use Excel, you simpleton. That's this kind of impression that I feel like has been passed around. The reality of it is Excel's a very simple tool and a lot of people understand it. So is there a way that we could keep Jim Bob in his same environment, but extract the data that we need higher up the chain? So maybe it's Excel, and you're keeping it local on your machine. I don't know. Hey, Jim Bob, can you do me a favor here? Can you use it over here instead? It's still Excel. Can you use it on the web version instead? And he's like, why? Like, that helps us out. Okay. And then we can start building from there. So now we're in a cloud situation where we can pull data back to the other areas that we need it. All of that to say, it's very confusing and very difficult. A lot of ways to skin that cat. But I think at the end of the day, if we can find ways to make Jim Bob have that ownership, that's the core.
Well, I think that's a leadership issue that we get into in all organizations, right? It's like, do you focus on your most extreme pain or do you focus on your extreme value, right? Do you want to take the Excedrin because you got a really bad headache, or you want to drink more water? Because if you drink more water, you're not going to have the headache, more say. But you just want to take the Excedrin and be like, okay, I'm done. Cool. It's like, no, that's putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. Okay, so when we step back, we got to make it simple. When we started developing Pharaoh's Tech, right, we're a web and app-based platform. When I was doing the wireframes and creating this, I was like, I got to take my 75-year-old father and my 5th grade son and put them in a room together and be like, no one's going to be here to help you. Can you get through this journey without asking questions? And so you break it down so it's so basic, where you give them doors and channels to go through, and then they don't get lost when they're still getting to the end of the maze, into the destination where they feel like they've won. And now you've bridged a technology sector and a leadership sector to add value to someone that had a problem. It's like, how do you mesh them all together? And then again, when you walk into a company, leadership's like, we've got to evolve. We've got to change, right? And then you're like, granted, agree with you 100%. So how you change is not developed in this room with the 5 of you, right? It's a collective feedback of all 300 employees, from the guy that operates the concrete pump to the guy that's pushing the broom in the sea can to clean it up. How do you take all the information, do a SWOT analysis, and saying, okay, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to do it in baby steps. Like, don't build the project in a week and be like, look what here. And they're like, where's the door? Like, dude, 4x4. So they can understand. They're not scared. They're not intimidated going, there's no way I'm going to be able to get to the top of this building. I can't do it in 2 steps. I know, it's okay. 1 stair at a time.
That's good design. And good design takes time, right? And that's and talking to each one of the 300 people within an organization, like, that's user research. It's experience design, right? So I'm talking to them with this mindset of, okay, instead of, doing user experience for the sake of making my app easier to use, like I'm doing my heuristics and making sure that everything looks nice on one app, which is done. Instead of just doing that, what we're doing is we're taking a more holistic view of user experience. What are the tools they're touching? How often are they touching them? What do they need them for? And we just overlook that. Like, we get bogged down with just the UX of the actual app that we're giving them, not necessarily the UX of the entire workflow and everything that they do and how they do it. And I think it's just coming up a level and just looking at it higher is really helpful and often missed, because we'll just say, yeah, here's this new tool. use it, go crazy. And I see this kind of, this reward thing that we were talking about, like the finish line, of the maze. When you get to the end of the finish line in a maze, you're like, heck yeah, I got through the maze. Like you feel good. I think most products right now, they don't have that feeling of like that, almost that dopamine hit of like, hey, I got through the maze. Like I did the thing. I want to do it again. Most applications don't have that. And so that's another thing in experience design that I'm thinking through is how can we give each individual user that hit of, hey, I did a good job, or like I get something out of this, right? I just don't feel like we've nailed that. Because we will push things. I'll use my detailing background as an example. I've worked on many projects. And GC would mandate that I use Procore or something, right? And I would have to export an IFC file or a model from my software, and I would have to push that up to the cloud. The thing is that I would often forget. I'll call myself out for that. I would often forget. There was nothing in it for me. It was an annoyance, and so
Yeah, the
now
only
it's a matter.
benefit was your higher up saying, "I got it."
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
it's fair.
and then we would go into a coordination meeting every single week where everybody would be like, okay, did you upload your model? Did you upload your model? Yeah, I uploaded my model. And we'd sit there for an hour while we did clash detection. And so there's that side of it, which is like, oh my gosh, what's the point of all this? I think that that's actually could be solved by better software personally. So I think that could be solved there. But it's an example of like, it was a drag for me to do that task. Who benefited from it? The people up top benefited from it, or the GC benefited by doing that. But it was never really understood by me why and what I was getting out of this, how it saved me time by investing that time into it. And I feel like most companies kind of get that wrong, right? We got to take the time and understand like what is the thing that we're offering our people that is that, that treat at the end of the rainbow, that you do your task and you get a treat, and it's different for everybody. And I think that's the reason why it hasn't been answered very clearly or cleanly, because you could look at it and go, well, is it monetary? Do we give them more money for doing that? Yeah. I don't know if that's really it. Like, I genuinely don't think that money's going to solve that issue all the time. Maybe it would in some cases, but saving them actual time and energy and giving them clarity, that might, but it's different for everybody.
It could, because the value of everybody's time is at a different level, right? You go back to the two fundamental things that is currency that once it's spent, it's rarely getting back, right? The first one is your health, right? When your health depletes, very rarely do you get to, like a second chance. I'm talking really serious health concerns. You falling out of your chair before the podcast, that's not a serious health concern. You'll get your breath back.
I don't know, man.
He lost a quarter of a heart there.
It felt like it. A quarter of a heart.
Right? But long-term systemic habits, right? We're talking serious health things. So you can't get those back, right? You're going to do some serious damage in time. Once time is gone, you can't get it back. So with everything we do, whether it's technology, trying to give you more time. Now your value of that time is, I get to leave the job earlier. I get to go see my son's baseball game, right? I get to go to the gym and help my health, right? All those are different value layers. Or from a monetary, we finish the project sooner, and my company gives me a bonus based on coming in under budget and in time or before time on scheduling. So if you layer time in and you give them that added value, they're starting to see in that ownership going, now I see the benefit of how adopting this new technology that I understand and have ownership of gets me what I want. Gets me the dopamine of that through the maze. And my maze is I get to attend every baseball game now because I'm not at the project until 6:30, or driving home at 5:00 in traffic, because that's also a part. Like, I just need to get more time to be more efficient, more productive, and hopefully I get paid for that. Right? I think that's the sauce right there. But I just can't wrap my head around sometimes too. And again, I get it. I'm a dinosaur. It's me. Like, I'm talking to myself. But it's like, we've got to figure out how to get the industry like bought in. And I'm not talking top end. I'm talking collectively, from the journeyman to the foreman to the superintendent to the project manager to the estimator to the engineer. Like, everybody's got to be rowing the boat in the same direction and understanding where we're going and what input they provide and how it's valued to the team.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too, because there's is it Parkinson's law, that time
No,
is
not
working.
Parkinson's. Murphy's law. Or no,
Murphy's,
wait, or,
no, it's not Murphy's.
Or was
'cause
that
that's
which one?
Murphy's.
It's
No,
it's
which
part,
one
I
were we
think it's
talking about?
Parkinson's law, because it's work
Really?
expands to fit the time given. All right. So if I have 8 hours of work, or 8 hours that I'm supposed to work in, and I have a set number of tasks, I will work at a certain pace to get all of those tasks done within that 8 hours. Right. And so it's like work expands to fill the space. I think I could be butchering that. You guys have to look it up, but
I'll ask Chat.
It is Parkinson's, though. You are
ask
correct there.
ChatGPT or Perplexity.
No,
I
it's
was just getting there.
JP, yeah, JPT.
That's
there
that's
you
our
go.
nickname for JP in the company. Like, you got something? Just ask Chat GPT. He's got an answer.
Yeah, ChatGPT. Here you go. What do you got, JP? Do you have it?
Oh, yeah, you're good. Yeah, it's Parkinson's law.
It's
You're
Parkinson's
correct.
law. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. All right, I remembered something.
Yep.
ADHD
Work
win.
expands to fill the time allotted.
Boom. All right. So that's that other side of it is, okay. So now I have time to go to the baseball games, but if I'm a workaholic,
You have time. You have more time to do more work.
so then the time
That's a big.
expands.
That's
or
a
the
bigger
work
issue
expands.
tech was not going to solve.
Exactly. So like, again, it's tricky because every
That's a
person
different
is different.
app. That's
It
a mental
is.
wellness app.
Yeah, exactly. Download BetterHelp, please. That's that element too that I don't think is. It's an underlying thing that we aren't taking into account, and so I think it's a lot of art and a lot of science that's going to go into solving this problem. I'm kind of leaning into like, how can we marry both of these things? Like, we got to get really scientific. We got to talk to as many people as humanly possible and really understand the problem before we start providing solutions. And so like the first little while of me being involved in any company is just, I just need to get my head wrapped around what you've got going on. And that takes time because I'm new. I don't know what you've been doing up until this point. And I got to talk to as many people as possible. And so it's scientific, man. It takes time and everybody's different. People are fickle, so fickle.
Do you even think they know what they want? I mean, I used to do exercises with companies where I would like sit down with the C-level executives, give them a flashcard and saying, hey, the 7 of you, write down your 5 top priorities as an organization. I'll be back in 10 minutes. And they couldn't figure it out. I'd come back and be like, dude, whose card is this? Do you even work here? Like, all this shit is so different. And I'm like, dude, the 5 of you guys can't get this together. Like, how you expect the 300? So do you think they even know what they want?
I think some people know what they want. Others don't. I just, it's not a
I
very
think it's
good
more about the
answer.
listener.
It just,
I-
just depends.
Yeah, because it's-
I'm like,
you
you
can't-
can't solve
you
your
can't
problem if you don't
listen
know what you want on the menu.
Well, you
That's
can't
fair.
listen to everybody. Like, everybody's not right. What you need is the person with the right ear. That's like, you are the one that's right.
Yeah.
Like
I think
so
to
you need
me,
that's you need a good
it's
aggregator.
helping, and I think that's become more my role in this is exactly what you talk about. It's like, okay, we're going to sit down with our flashcards here. You write out what you think the most important 5 things are, and then we come back in the room, and after we all been separate, we start comparing, and we go, why are all these different? Let's figure that out, and then we start from there, and then we just keep doing that sort of stuff consistently, and it just over time it just gets better. So I hate that answer that it depends, because it just feels so just like, kind of like a Heisman, I'm like scooching past it, but like genuinely, it just depends on the team. It depends on the people. And it it ain't easy. Company culture plays into this.
I think that's where leadership comes in, where that a strong leader will then listen to their organization and say, okay, like JP exercise we went through, like what you called the project 1%. Everybody put their feedback in, and we start looking at the priorities. And now the leader has to come in and saying, okay, we're going to do this. And there's a reason that leader's the leader. You trust me, right? That's a huge thing in companies. You got to trust the person who's leading you so you'll follow, right? And then it goes back to some of the things that I do with like my men's group, like talking about getting 1% better, right? And what is that going to take? That's going to take discipline and consistency. And through that process, it's acquiring knowledge. But there's a difference between knowledge that's acquired and then knowledge that's put into action. You got to do those things. You got to figure out what you want. How do you apply it? Create discipline and do it consistently. If you don't do that, no tech's going to solve any of your problems.
I'll say this too. And I see technology companies that they fall into this trap where they talk to one person and they think that that's law. That's how it works. No, because I can talk to 5 different foremen at 5 different steel fabricators, and they all have their own way of doing it.
And it all gets done. And it all gets done at the end. Yeah,
exactly. But everybody's got their own opinion. It's good grief, man. It's extremely challenging to figure out the best. I don't know, the best line of thinking with that. So what I see tech companies,
do you force people onto a line, or do you engineer in some flexibility, and it's less about the line so much as
it's rigidity, but flexibility in certain areas. But you got to understand where you're rigid, and you got to understand where you're flexible.
Yeah.
So
I want to pivot to your opinion on large scale, multifaceted tools that try and solve a lot of things at once versus the very niche, tool that just tries to do one thing. And I'm kind of putting us on a chopping block here, Scott, because that's what Faro is. Faro does one thing. We help construction delivery happen easier. Like, it's just like, you got something that needs to be here, in 2 hours or less. That's where we come in. It's like, that's it. That's all we're going to help you with. Versus something that has a lot of functionality. Have you found a commonality where it's better to be niche, or you found some success, or some companies that are doing, large scale optimizations really well? Or is it throwing a dart at blind?
Throwing a dart in the blind. Like, honestly, I think most companies that are they'll fall into this trap. So I gotta commend you guys if that's the case, where you've stayed locked in on one singular problem consistently for a long period of time. A lot of times what ends up happening is a lot of these products will say, we're trying to solve issues for architects and engineers and general contractors and owners and all these people, and they confuse the snot out of themselves. And what ends up happening is, like, you have this visual of like a person in the middle, and then you have a bunch of people that have ropes around their waist, and they're all pulling them in different directions, right? What happens? That person in the middle who's trying to get somewhere, they're never going to be able to go anywhere. They're just going to stay in the middle, right? Whereas if you have one person with one rope tied to their waist, they're actually going to move them in a direction, right? So for me, that is the hardest thing in construction tech, or in tech in general. It's to say, listen, I'm not going to have 50 ropes tied to me because I'm not going to move anywhere. What I am going to do is I'm going to have one rope tied to me, and we're going to go in that direction. And we're going to keep going in that direction consistently, consistently, consistently. And you know what? Whenever I find something that is a little bit adjacent to it, I can tie another rope here, and then we're going to keep pulling in that same direction. It's discipline. It's discipline to build a product. And that's where I see a lot of these companies going wrong right now. You don't become Procore overnight. You don't. Can you build it? Yeah. You can build it very quickly, actually, with a lot of the vibe coding tools that are out there now. But the reality of it is, they started with a very specific segment of the industry, and they solved for them. And then they were able to branch out when the time was right, and it expanded and expanded. But man, I see so many tools that enter the market. It's like, it slices, it dices, it does this, it does that. And they're confused. And their
And wait,
marketing
there's
is
more.
confused. And wait, there's more. Yeah.
That's where you get in
So
that situation where you have a tool that can solve 100% of your problems, but your workforce only uses 2% of it. And it
yeah,
becomes
because they're
all just,
confused. They're
yep,
confused.
exactly.
Well, they're
Right? It's like-
confused, and here's a big thing too. This might go against the grain, but the customer
Great.
is not always right. You know, this whole series that we came
No.
up with, oh, you know, the customer's always right. Like, no, they're not. Okay, you think In-N-Out, depending, I don't know where you're at, Tyler, but like In-N-Out Burger, like, no, we don't have tacos. It's burgers. You know,
Burgers.
like
Yeah.
Taco Bell wants to do like, oh, we have chicken nuggets now. It's like, dude, you're Taco Bell. Like, just sell tacos.
Just
I know,
tacos.
but our customers really want like, okay, so now you got a
Yeah.
whole different like chain of cook and flow and process and buying
Mhm.
habits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're no longer Taco Bell. You're
Yep.
just,
And
Yeah.
McDonald's used to have spaghetti.
yeah.
They tried spaghetti for about a year.
Are you
It's
serious?
crazy. It's just
I
like
didn't know
they
this.
sure did.
about.
What?
Yep. McDonald's
Holy.
did spaghetti it was atrocious. It tastes bad, looked bad, was awful, and just tanked immediately.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's
But it goes back to
that's
that
exactly
stay in
it,
your
yeah.
lane. You know, we're in
Stay in your lane.
logistics. Like we talked
Yeah.
about, nope, we're going to stay in our lane.
Yes.
We have a segment, right? We target rental companies because that's where I came from. I know the movement and the structure and what they're doing. Then we have the construction supplies, right? Totally different animal, supply chain. Your churns are different. You know, your loads are different when they need them, get them dropped. And then you got your end user contractor that owns product, buys product from construction, goes to the rental companies. Yeah, it's all similar. It's all going to a job site. They all kind of work in the same ecosystems, but what they're ordering, how they deliver it, how they package it, when they need it, those are three different animals. So we said, stay focused on rental. And if the other ones organically flock, the app can do it. Or even the B2C play, like, okay, will we move your furniture from your office to your other office? It's a product. It goes on there. Like, if you want to get on the app and book it, sure. But I'm not dropping off any flyers and going, how many refrigerators you got moving tomorrow? Like, no.
Yeah, no, it's consistent motion in the same direction and pressure on that one thing just over time, and that's what gets you the breakthrough. And a lot of companies learn this the hard way, including me. The only reason I know that is because I failed. Like, I utterly failed in my first business. It just didn't make sense. And I was going all the different directions. This story builder. It was a video company, and I was like, yeah, and I've shut it down. Yeah, so I shut that down. I haven't really made this super public, but a lot of my issue there, and the reason why it took me so long to find some footing was because I served everybody. I would say construction. Okay, who in construction? It's niching down, and so like don't hear me say this because I've learned my lesson. So that's the reason with FieldProof, I'm like, no. Just saying contractors in general is not enough. And so it almost pains me to say that. I'm like, no, I need to get more specific. Who? And if people are outside of that, okay, it's fine. But who do I talk to? Where do I go to market? What conferences do I go to? Because if you're too broad, then it's like, go to every single conference known to man, but then you're talking generically and you're not actually solving real problems. And so to answer the original question, niche, however you want to say, that to me, that is the market to be in right now for construction tech. It's not broad. There's too many of those and they're confused and nobody's buying them. Nobody. So solve a problem for a core user, clearly define who that is, and just keep hammering on that, because eventually you will find those things that you can naturally bring into the ecosystem, and you can say, okay, now we're not just serving them, we can serve them too. And now you've kind of messaged that, and you've got the word of mouth working for you too. People saying like, yeah, I can vouch for Faro. I've used them. They're great. Right? but they're adjacent to what your core ICP is, right? So, yeah, I don't know. Just don't make the
And
same mistakes
buyers,
that I did.
I would recommend to the buyers out there, construction companies that are looking it up, don't fall into the trap of like the superstore, the Costco, right? Where, oh, I can get everything. I want to go somewhere where I can get everything and they have all the tools.
Yeah. I think there's like, I understand the logic there, but again, like what I've found is as many, as few tools as possible, but as many that are as necessary. All right. So as few tools as possible, like kind of falling into that mindset of, okay, like, can we use this one tool to do multiple things? Yes. But is it actually driving value for the people that are using it?
Right. Yeah. What's the actual impact versus? I mean, because yeah, sometimes like we're as a company here, Scott, we're managing some of those things right now where it's like, okay, we know we have pain, we know we have problems, but which squeaky wheel deserves the grease or needs the grease? What's going to have the biggest impact? And that's where we should focus. And sometimes that means some of the wheels are just going to squeak. You're not going to fix them all. And that's okay because they're not a big wheel. It's not. It's
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. That's business in a
Hmm.
nutshell, man. Like, so, I mean, yeah, it's a balancing act and it's, you're riding a unicycle all the time, but I mean, that's why it's kind of fun, building businesses is fun and implementing tech is fun. But if I'm quoting the great Adam Savage from Mythbusters here, the only difference between science and goofing off is writing it down. So make sure you're writing things down. And because again, you can, if you're doing that, you can draw lines and you can say, okay, this is a squeaky wheel and it's loud today, but genuinely, is this a blip or is this a consistent issue? Write it down. And that's a big thing in product and UX. You find the common big pains by aggregating and synthesizing everything down together, but write it down. Take crazy good notes. Sam Walton was known for this, walking around Walmart with his yellow legal pad, writing crap down all the time, just always making notes. How it can be better, how it can be better. Listening to customers. What are they doing? What do they need? What do they need? What do they need? The reason he wrote all that stuff down is because he can draw a line through it and say, like, here's where the real pain is at, and here's where my focus is going to be. And I think a lot of young founders have shiny object syndrome. I get it. But man, don't get it. You got to fight against it. And that can help you prevent the shiny object syndrome is by having that kind of source of truth for yourself and just having the notes. So
Yep.
write crap down always.
Write it down, review it, prioritize.
Always.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Use ChatGPT to break it down for you. Like we live in a great world now where we can just chuck all of our notes into an AI and be like, what are the common threads you're seeing? I'm feeling this way.
So if we were to do that, and let's paint ourselves into a box, right? If we're looking at the construction industry from a tech perspective, what needs to happen in the next 12 to 24 months to get and right size the industry from an adoption and an integration platform that both is developed by, I know it's a long question, developed by the product managers, but used by the end user? Because that I think that will tighten our box. Like, what needs to happen? Does the end user need to say, okay, I'm taking ownership and build me this? Or does tech need to start listening and saying, we're going to solve this one giant problem and we're going to do this? Like, get the box really small so we can really pinpoint an answer.
Okay, so I'm going to point at the product side because I think it can apply to not only SaaS, so softwares you buy off the shelf versus custom, right? I'm going to point at the product side. It is going out and listening to the people that are going to use it all the time. Always collect data around what they need and why they need it. Always. Get out from behind the computer. Go talk to as many people as you can. Get out into the field, talk to them, record what you're talking about, synthesize what you're hearing. And you're going to start finding those areas where those are the big pains. So for the next 12 to 18 months, if we really want to make an impact, in my humble opinion, it is these niche softwares need to get laser focused on solving problems for individuals. Because if you solve a problem for logistics and I solve a problem for steel, maybe, just maybe, there's a way we can share and we can talk. And that's if we really want to see end-to-end solutions, that's how it's going to happen. It's not going to be one company to rule them all. I just don't think it's possible because there's just too much. It's too much variability. I think it's direct focus and just solving problems for them and helping them innovate. So, okay, I understand you're asking me to do this. I understand the why behind it. I think Steve Jobs might have been probably really good at this, and he was notoriously kind of a jerk, but I have heard that he's a really good listener ultimately for the longest time. He would listen to the problems people were having, and then he would come up with an elegant solution to solve that problem in a way people didn't expect. That's that thing. It's like, how can we take the thing that they're telling us and solve it in a way that is really cool and that they don't expect? Whereas bad product design just is like building the thing that they're telling them to build. So like I go out and I talk to Jim Bob, superintendent in the field. He says he needs this thing. I build that exact thing for him. Great. Now I'm just taking a crappy process and speeding it up, right? So it's I feel like I've talked myself in circles here, guys. I'm sorry, but like it's really, you know this. It's a freaking challenging thing to solve. And it takes a lot of smart people, a lot of smarter people than me, that is for dang sure. But how can we take processes and not just speed up crap? Let's try to be elegant with the solutions that we provide. But the only way you're going to get to that is by continually asking questions and having that data point that you can send to multiple people and really talk about and say, here's what I'm thinking. Am I crazy? And that works in SaaS and that works in custom software.
And just pushing the, I would call it the narrative, but just the critical thinking process. You know, it reminds me, I don't know if I told this on a previous podcast, JP, but I always go back to the meatloaf story. JP, you've heard it before, where, you know, little girl's at, you know.
The singer Meatloaf?
No,
or is it?
no, not that meatloaf. But
Okay.
it's like she's at, you know, a dinner with her family, and she goes and mom goes, "Hey, mom, why do we cut the ends off of the meatloaf?" She's like, "Well, you know, my mom taught me how to do that. Go ask grandma." And then she goes, "Okay, grandma, why'd you cut it off?" And she's like, "Well, because my mom, and, you know, she's actually still alive. Why don't you go ask her?" And then great grandma goes, "Yeah, the meatloaf was this big and the pan was this big. So I just cut it off. And that's how we've been doing it for 3 generations. And now you got a bigger pan. You're like, dude, you don't have to waste the meat." So be careful when you're asking, you know, and I'm dating myself. There's a lot of people in the industry that have a whole lot of knowledge, tons of knowledge, but they might be limited in their perspective. And so that's where the new generation has to come in and say, "Hey, grandpa, did you know this thing iPhone, like you can actually send pictures? You don't have to mail them to me anymore?" They're like, "What?"
My daughter does this, man. Occasionally she'll just be like, why? 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 But why? But why? And I'm like, stop asking me why, you know, like I'll lose it. And she just giggles and runs off. But like, it's true. Like, that's kind of how we have to be. That's the way that kid was able to find out, like, why the heck we cut the ends off of the meatloaf, right? Like, she's like, but why? I don't know. They told me. Okay. Why? Just keep chasing that why. Keep chasing why. Why are we doing it that way? But do we need to do it that way, really? And it's just asking questions. And man, I think a lot of times too, and I've made a bit of a career out of it hilariously, is just asking really stupid ones, really stupid questions. Like, and just throwing your hand up, this might be stupid. I just want to know why. Why do we do that? And I think ego can get in the way of innovation in a big way. Because we can't set our ego aside long enough to just be like, I actually don't know that.
Are you talking about the steel industry?
Yeah.
Oh, we know everything.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, man. So, I mean, ego plays into this and prevents the innovation from happening because on both sides, one is that the ego says, "Well, I know how it's done." There's one side, and then the other side is, "Well, I've been here for 7 years and I haven't asked why, so I'm not gonna ask it now." You know? And so your ego kinda gets in the way, or your fear kinda gets in the way. So we gotta work through that. And man, it's just continually just humbling yourself and just realizing like, man, like if you look in the mirror and I mean, not to be, mean to yourself, but just remind yourself like there are smarter people and you need to listen to them. Right. And like just remind yourself like you don't know it all. That
I
was
thought
the
he was
big
going to do
slap
the
in the
Stuart
face.
Smalley. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough.
I'm
And
smart
gosh
enough
darn it,
now.
people like me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Gosh darn it. Like it's I mean, of course, like we can get into the self-talk side of things some other time, but genuinely, like, that's what I learned with doing our podcast is, like, when I came into this, Eddie and I both, we came into this thinking that we were gonna educate the industry on our line of thinking and how we do things, and man, there was a great reset that occurred because we started realizing how stupid we are. Like, we know one facet of the industry pretty well, pretty well, but there's value in just being the stupid guy in the room and just asking why a bunch of times. And, what's hilarious, it's kind of an Uno reverse. It's by being the stupid guy in the room, you're actually being the smart one. You're being the wise one. And that's counterintuitive. But man, it pays to just be the stupid guy in the room.
The reason God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Exactly. Shut up and listen. Which I still have yet to learn.
Want to know your opinion. If we could fast forward 5, 10 years, what do you think are going to be some of the biggest differences in how construction uses technology in, for communication planning, executing projects? Do you think that we're going to see any paradigm shifts like the Industrial Revolution with the onset of things like AI and robotics? Or is it going to be, in your mind, I mean, I'm just looking for a prediction here of, do you think it's going to be a little bit more slow and methodical?
Slow and methodical. Slow and methodical. I think that AI is here, and don't get me wrong, I could be completely wrong by this. AI is gonna change a lot of things, of course, and it is changing a lot of things, and I believe, like, in the power of it. Like, I use it all the time, and I understand it pretty deeply, because of the work that I do, but I think it's a adoption curve thing, right? I don't think people are gonna adopt it so rapidly, even though it's learning and it's getting better so rapidly. So I think we're kind of on the bell curve right now. It's just gonna take a minute. So I don't think we're quite at that point yet. I think year 6 is probably when we're gonna start seeing a little bit more of a tip, and it's gonna be a bit more of an inflection point, like 6 years from now. And then it'll kinda even out, and then it'll taper. So I think if anything is going to say disrupt or change, it is gonna be AI. But there is this side of me too that is kind of interested to see it play out because this is that and if you have time for an AI rant, I will go on one. Do you have time
I
for an
think,
AI rant? Okay,
yeah,
because
Scott, are you good with an
my
AI rant?
I have to hop off in about 5 minutes, but you guys the camera can continue to roll, and
okay.
I'll
I
catch
will
up
I
later.
will try to keep this as condensed as possible for you, Scott, because this is my poor wife had to hear me rant about this last night, so this is fresh. There are a lot of companies out there, a lot of technology companies that are saying that they have built their own AI. They built their own AI. And that's kind of, in a way, somewhat true. It's kind of a half truth in a way. Because at the end of the day, these LLMs are based off of systems that have been developed by Meta, OpenAI, Google, X, you've got Grok, you got Anthropic, you got all of these models. And there has been billions poured into creating these LLMs, billions of dollars. It takes a lot of time to build one of these things. So if a company that has only raised $5 million comes out and says, we built our own AI, no, they have trained an existing LLM in a specific way to do a specific thing. And that's that marketing bull that I've been talking about. And there's the lack of transparency in it because I've asked multiple founders, did you train this? Yeah, we built it from scratch. No, you actually didn't build it from scratch.
No, you just
You did
put
not build this
code
from
on the
scratch.
floor model. That's all you did.
Bingo. Yes. And so I think there is this interesting thing happening with security. So if you're looking at data centers or nuclear power sites or anything like that, DoD projects, right? We have all of these AI tools out there that you can now plug into your software stack and get it to crawl it and all that stuff. Okay, well, if you're not being honest and transparent about the models that you're using, who's to say that the model that you're using is not Alibaba's model that's made in China?
Yeah,
or
I was about to
DeepSeek.
say, I feel like I need to start reaching for the tinfoil and getting ready for.
Oh yeah, no,
a
I'm
little
really
bit
good at
of-
going down these rabbit trails, but like genuinely, it's a concern that I have right now of like if we're not transparent about the base model that we're using and how we're handling that data and what we're training in the background, then we're just passing data out there to different countries, and there can be some security threats behind that, and we're just plugging these things in willy nilly. So it's really interesting. And I think that might be an adoption killer.
So when I hear stuff like that, it makes me super frustrated because it's like AI is just another tool in my arsenal. You can use AI just like the internet, anything else, like use it as a tool, not as the Bible. Okay, if AI gives me an answer back and I'm like, yeah, I'm not really following, I don't like that. It doesn't mean just because it came from you that it's correct. I'm like, okay, that's your opinion. Nope, I'm not bought into it. You gave me a structure, and oh, by the way, you gave me something to refute. So now my individual opinion, based on what I know and my experience, can say, you know what? No. Now I'm going to reformat, reframe, do whatever. So stop taking AI, if you're doing this right now, as like the gospel. To your point, Tyler, it's a bunch of information, come from a bunch of different sources, right? To give you a perspective, you have to use your individual critical thinking skills. Like, hey, moral compass, kicking old ladies in the shin, we could all universally agree is not something good. If AI tells you, well, in this country they do this and it's actually original, like, okay, it's fundamentally not like sound. Don't put it into your next freaking process. God, you've got to use critical thinking skills, people. Like, I don't care how smart AI is. Use the brain that you were given, and hopefully all the cylinders are firing.
Well, and that's kind of where I'm getting
frustrating.
to. It's like it's genuinely like we've just turned off that part of us when it comes to how we're implementing it. And like, okay, it's not like I think that the information that can come out of these LLMs is very accurate. Don't get me wrong, and I think there are checks and balances that can be done to ensure that it's pretty accurate. But it's kind of like the internet, you know. Sometimes there's stuff that gets posted there that ain't quite accurate.
Fake
You
news.
know? Yeah, right. So we have all over the place, Lord knows. But for me, I'm like, we need to use our critical thinking skills by any of these AI tools that we're actually implementing and push on the people that have developed them to say, what did you use in the background? And if they're not willing to give you a straight answer, I don't know if I want to use them because one, I think it just kind of reeks to me.
Yeah,
Like,
it
be
doesn't sit
transparent. Be transparent.
You're asking people to go to the next level. Like, we do. And again, I don't want to be the pessimist person in the room, but Band-Aid hold or Band-Aid bullet hole. Like, no one wants to do research. They want to get instant gratification. They want to check the box and they want to say, okay, I fixed this problem. And you're like, you didn't fix anything. You swept it under the rug. No one can see it, but your house is still dirty.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
you got to do the homework and the research. Like, stop. Again,
Well, that's
I'm
the
gonna
thing. It's
basically
hilarious.
pivot off
Yeah.
this before I go down a rabbit hole of frustration.
You're welcome. Go get
Thanks,
go
Tyler.
get angry
Appreciate
about
that.
it, Scott. Yeah, that's what I'm here for, man. Tin Hat Club. Meet every Thursday.
Yeah, sheesh.
Well, awesome. Well, let's use that as the capper there. Really appreciate the time. I feel like we could probably talk for a lot longer, and maybe we will. Maybe we'll bring you on again and continue down some of these paths that we've started to tread.
Happy to rant anytime you'll
Or
have
you
me,
can,
guys.
if you want, you can have us on yours and we can go rant too. But where are you
We're not
based out of?
recording anymore. We're in Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're in
we're in
Scottsdale.
Georgia. Okay. Yeah.
But either way, like super appreciative for you being on. We'd love to stay in touch, and and really wish you well with kind of this newer endeavor with your new company, FieldProof. So
Appreciate
it
that.
seems really cool, and it's right up our alley.
Yeah. JP, Scott, appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, everyone, that is a wrap for today's episode of Beyond the Build. We took away some real valuable lessons and insights, and I hope that you did as well.
If you enjoyed this episode, we would ask that you subscribe so you can never miss an update. If you're a thought leader looking to innovate in the construction industry, let's talk. We'd love to connect and hear your thoughts.
You can find Beyond the Build on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, plus anywhere else that you listen. And if you'd like to learn more about how Faro is changing logistics in the construction industry, please visit our website at faronow.com.
Once again, thanks for tuning in, and until next time, be humble, serve others, and make an impact.